Well, good morning, everyone. We are now beginning day 30 of the Democrat shutdown. And as there are millions of Americans this morning that are embracing themselves for further pain and hardship, we'll highlight some of that this morning. The Democrats, incredibly, are showing no signs at all that they want to end their shutdown. Now, they will have another opportunity today. The Democrats in the Senate will have their 15th opportunity to do the right thing. We're concerned that they won't. And if they reject this for the 15th time, they will be ensuring that this shutdown continues past the November 1st deadline. And that is a fateful deadline for a number of reasons. Starting on Saturday, let me give you a list of things that this means for the American people. It means that tens of millions of American families will struggle to keep food on the table because the SNAP program benefits will run dry. It means that WIC assistance, that's women, infants, and children, the nutrition programs, will be at risk of running dry. It means that Head Start centers, which serve 60,000 children nationwide, will be at risk of closure. Millions of federal workers, and we've listed them here every day. You're talking about air traffic controllers and TSA agents and park rangers and Border Patrol agents, law enforcement around the country. The stewards of our nuclear arsenal will miss their paychecks. Thousands of flights, by result, will be canceled or delayed, while our borders and national security will be directly jeopardized at a very dangerous moment in world history. And our country will lose tens of billions in gross domestic product. With each passing day, the pain gets more real, and the Democrats are guaranteeing when they vote to reject our clean funding resolution. We expect they will do that again today for the 15th time. They are showing no shame whatsoever in their actions. Now, just as we clearly know what is happening, which we've recounted here every morning, the American people can never forget. We also clearly know why it's happening. And I brought a few friends. We brought some colleagues here from the state of New York and New York City to share with you about some of what's going on here. Back in March, this is very clear what happened. Let me summarize very briefly as I can. Back in March, Chuck Schumer voted for the clean CR, the same measure that's on the floor now. He did the right thing, and he went on the floor of the Senate and he gave an impassioned speech of why we could never inflict all this pain on the American people. He meant it from his heart, and he was consistent in what he had done over his 44 years in Congress, always voting to fund the government. But when he did the right thing in March, he received an onslaught of criticism from the far left base and the Democrat Party. He almost lost his job. Many of you wrote about it. He was in jeopardy of not winning his next reelection. That's how serious it was. So Chuck Schumer got a bunch of consultants and staff in a back room, and they concocted a plan, a political stunt. And they determined right then that the next time there was a funding measure, no matter how meritorious and no matter how much it would cause pain to the American people, that he would vote against it. He would show a fight to President Trump so he could save his political skin. It's exactly what happened. He did this so he could prove to his base that he's showing a fight. And as a result of this charade, he has brought the Democrats to their lowest point in decades. Literally, the Democratic Party has its lowest approval rating. Democrats in Congress have their lowest approval rating ever in the history of polling. The labor unions, working class Americans, independents are fleeing his party, and they are coming to the party of common sense because they see us here trying to solve these problems. They see us here voting over and over and over to fund the government and give them their paychecks, and they see the Democrats dug in against it. And now Chuck Schumer is desperately trying to cling to power. Unfortunately, when you make decisions out of fear and political desperation, you have already lost control. And the new power center in the Democrat Party is one that should frighten every common sense American. The radical socialist wing is rising. It is led by people like AOC and Bernie Sanders. Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer know this. They're smart politicians in that way. They can feel the political winds, and they know that they have to continue to act belligerently in order to gain the favor of the far left. It's their own political survival that they have put in front of the needs of the entire country. Let me say that again. The Democrat leaders in the Senate and the House have put their own political survival in front of the needs of the American people. Exhibit A is Zoran Mamdani. New York City, America's largest city, the cradle of capitalism that has always been, is facing a real crisis right now. They've got a 34-year-old, unproven, untested socialist who looks to be the next mayor. He may well be elected. Mamdani winning New York City would be the biggest win for the Marxists, the socialists, in the history of this country. We have, to this point, in nearly 250 years, been able to hold off those kinds of ideas. We've been able to cling to the foundational principles of America, the ideas of individual freedom and limited government and the rule of law and peace through strength and fiscal responsibility and free markets and human dignity. All those things are in jeopardy when the Marxists take over. And it's the clearest sign yet that the Democrats' radical Marxist wing is winning the battle for control of their party. Look at where the energy is. This should be alarming to everyone around the country. Mamdani has a course called to defund the police, to abolish all prisons, to legalize prostitution. He lambasted the New York PD, New York Police Department, as a racist system. And you might have seen, if you in the media are covering this, but there was a new video uncovered from 2023, just 2 years ago, and he said, quote, "We have to be clear, when the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it's been laced by the IDF. Look, it's a unique talent to merge one's loathing for American law enforcement with their loathing for the Jewish people. But this guy's, he's managed to do it. New York is just the tip of the iceberg. It's not isolated to America's largest city. It's other cities as well. Look at Seattle, where the leading candidate for mayor is an open socialist. Look at Minneapolis, where the sitting socialist mayor is facing a challenge from his left flank. And look here in Congress, where we have our own wing of Marxist acolytes serving here. Amazingly, the media is criticizing Republicans for fixating on Mamdani. I read some of that yesterday. This socialist uprising is something that we have a responsibility to call out and sound the alarms. That's what elected representatives of the people are supposed to do, and we take that responsibility seriously. And obviously, Mamdani is a big issue here in the halls of Congress. Why? Because the second highest ranked Democrat in the country, Leader Jeffries, endorsed him. They're making Mamdani a mainstream Democrat now, and this party has left the people. Of course, the press wants us to ignore Mamdani. Here it's an embarrassment because most of the press is on the side of the Democrats. They don't want us to talk about that, but we have to. Because by endorsing Mamdani, Hakeem Jeffries has endorsed and co-owned his positions, his past statements, his Marxist playbook, and everything else that that guy espouses. And so too does every single House Democrat who will be inviting their leader, Jeffries, to their campaigns and to their districts next year. Every single one of them at every campaign stop should be asked, what do you think about Mamdani? What do you think about his positions? While House Democrats court Marxists in New York, Senate Democrats have chosen to shut down the government over a totally clean, nonpartisan CR. It's the first time in history, in the history of this country, that any party has done that, has chosen, had the audacity to shut the government down over a totally clean, nonpartisan funding measure. They're bowing to the demands of their far left base, and no one can deny that. The facts are very clear. The American people are intelligent. They understand what's happening here. We pray that the Democrats, at least a handful of centrists, if there are any moderates left in the Democrat Party in the Senate, we pray that they will come to their senses and they will do the right thing by the American people, that they will stop all the pain and that they will reopen the government. As I mentioned on Saturday, things are going to become very dire. There is one way out of this, the easy way, the obvious way, and that is for the Democrats to do their job and vote for the CR. Now, I mentioned we brought some of our good friends and colleagues here from New York to talk about the mess that the Democrats have created in the Empire State. Now, why are we focusing on New York? Because, again, it's a bellwether for the rest of the nation. If you're watching at home, you need to understand the dynamics of what's happening in New York, because you have to ensure that it doesn't happen in your city, in your town, in your state. And these folks are watching this, and they're fighting it. Our Republicans in New York are trying to hold the line. They're trying to defend what is great about this extraordinary and exceptional nation that we have. But they have a lot of headwinds, and they're here to share how this reckless shutdown is impacting every
Guys, hit the like button if you don't mind.
Excited to bring up to the podium before we get our leadership reports here. One of my dear friends and colleagues and classmates back from the 115th Congress when we came in as freshmen together, Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, who is from the 22nd District of New York. She does an extraordinary job here for her state and for the country. Claudia, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker and my colleagues. I actually hail from the 24th District, a little bit of, we've had some redistricting in upstate New York a couple of times, but I just want to say good morning and thank you again to my colleagues for being here. This is really important. And I wish I could say that I am surprised by what we're witnessing, but this is exactly what happens when the Democratic Party surrenders to its most radical fringe. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries lack the political courage to stand up to the Marxist, anti-Semitic, anti-law enforcement base led by Mamdani now, AOC, and Bernie Sanders. Schumer and Jeffries are both weak leaders from New York, and specifically New York City, where they have never had to face serious political opposition and have enjoyed nothing but glowing praise from their friends in the media. They are ill-suited to lead the Democratic Party at the national level, which is on dramatic display with each passing day of this tragic shutdown. They have traded true leadership for appeasement, responsibility for disorder, and principle for political survival. This shutdown is their choice. They've surrendered to radicals funded by dark money groups pushing anti-police, anti-Israel, anti-American garbage. Now the country is paying the price. I served with Hakeem Jeffries in the New York State Legislature. He sat right next to me. I've seen this playbook before, as have my colleagues in New York who also served in the legislature. It is the same corrupt Albany routine. Reward insiders, punish taxpayers, and blame everybody else. Today, it is something far worse. A movement run by socialist Marxist activists. I don't like to call them socialists, they're really Marxist. And extremist networks, and they have hijacked the Democratic Party. And as the Speaker pointed out, just look at Zohran Mamdani, a member of the State Assembly, by the way. He actually defeated a fairly liberal member of the Assembly, who is, in a narrow election, but there he is in the State Assembly. He is the face of the new far-left coalition, and make no mistake about it, the new leader of the New York Democratic Party. His campaign is not grassroots. It's bankrolled by Soros money, radical clerics, and communists working together to push a Marxist agenda in America's largest city. Schumer and Jeffries will not stand up to this movement. We've seen this because, as the Speaker pointed out, they're terrified of it. They have built their political survival on appeasing the far left, and now our entire country is being held hostage by it. They cannot open the government without angering the radicals who radically run their party. The Democratic Party is now controlled, as I said, by the Marxist activists, dark money donors. This is not a grassroots effort. And anti-American ideology is dominating this. And they would rather destroy the system than to lose power. And unfortunately, Leader Jeffries and Leader Schumer are just succumbing to this. New Yorkers are already paying the price, and we have been paying the price. From Albany's Medicaid for illegal scheme to Mamdani's socialist city agenda, working families are being crushed under taxes, mandates, and ideology. And if we don't stand up, the damage will not end at the Hudson. It will reach every corner of upstate New York and across this country. We are here to fight for the men and women who build, farm, serve, and raise families across New York and our nation. They are the backbone of this nation, and they deserve a government that works for them, not the political insiders who have created this mess. So my message to Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries is simple. Stop playing games. Stop bowing to this mob and reopen our government. Pay our troops, fund essential services, and start putting American families, and especially in my case and my colleagues here, New York families first. And my message to New Yorkers is this: stand up, speak out, reject this radicalism that has taken over not just our city, but will take over our state. And I thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the moment.
Well, thank you, Claudia, and my other colleagues from New York for coming. And it's so sad to see what's happened to that great state of New York. But if you go back to November, when President Trump won an overwhelming victory to come back as president, defeating Kamala Harris, winning every one of the 7 swing states. In those months after, what you saw was this internal conflict within the Democrat Party. Who is the head of the Democrat Party? You heard it over and over. Some people are trying to raise their hand. A very, very weak bench of failed leaders, primarily governors from failed states, wanting to jump ahead of everybody else and claim the title. And yet, as the Democrat Party stayed that rudderless ship for months and months, because of this perfect storm, that the 2 top Democrat leaders in the House and Senate both hail from the state of New York. With the emergence now of Zohran Mamdani, you have seen Zohran Mamdani quickly become the new head of the Democrat Party nationally. Because Chuck Schumer, who is the head Democrat in the Senate, and Hakeem Jeffries, who's the head Democrat in the House, both hailing from New York, are scared to death of that far-left extremist, radical, socialist, Marxist movement in their own party, starting in New York. And because Mamdani has taken off there, it is affecting real people everywhere in America. Devastating consequences. We've talked about it over and over. You know, the last few weeks, we talked about the pain, the suffering that Democrats were causing to especially federal workers, our troops, air traffic controllers, every other federal worker who wasn't getting paid. Some, President Trump found ways to get paid. Others, there weren't ways to do the same thing, but the president worked overtime. Look at what the president did working overtime, at least doing his job, in China this morning. A historic trade deal with China announced, where they resolved some issues on tariffs. Our soybean farmers are going to be able to sell more of their products into China. Critical minerals that we'll be able to get. All of those things President Trump continues to do while Democrats want to try to spew chaos around the country. But the harm to families, as we've been talking about, while real, is unfortunately going to get worse. And we've been telegraphing this for weeks, pleading with our Democrat colleagues in the Senate. Just five Democrats need to get the courage to end the shutdown. And only they can do it. They know that. And what are those consequences? We've been talking for weeks. Coming this weekend, Saturday, 42 million SNAP beneficiaries will lose those benefits. Those cards are going to go to zero. When they go to the grocery store to try to put food on the table, there will be no money in those accounts. And what is Chuck Schumer going to tell those families? It's no longer hypothetical. It's no longer theoretical. It's real suffering and pain, and they know that. We've given you the quotes over and over these last few weeks. They admit they are causing suffering. They're using the American people for leverage, and they just don't care. But I think they're going to start hearing more and more from people. There's some people we've been hearing from. The National Veteran Advocate, his retired U.S. Army Sergeant Eric Donahoe, said this, quote, "The decision to vote against advancing the CR is now causing financial harm to families who serve this country." He went on to say, quote, "When I spoke with Democratic staffers that I know they called this shutdown a political opportunity. They think the more Americans hurt, the more power they gain. They even bragged about it," Donahoe said. Quote, "This isn't a headline to us. It's rent, it's groceries, it's mental health, it's stability." And of course, you've heard just a few days ago, we had the National Air Traffic Controllers Association and the American Federation of Government Employees demanding that Democrats pass the clean CR. More and more, you're seeing this growing chorus of people from all corners, including Democrat corners, telling their own party leaders, stop this madness, end the madness, and vote to open the government. But again, this weekend, it gets even more painful, more suffering that they will impose if they keep this madness up. And so I'm going to try to find 5 Democrat senators. It's all we need is 5. So let's start with John Ossoff in Georgia. Starting this weekend, over 1.3 million enrollees in SNAP in his home state of Georgia lose their benefits. 1.3 million, Senator. What are you going to tell those families if you vote no today? If you vote to take their food away this weekend? That's what your vote means today. 109,000 federal workers in his state of Georgia. Of course, the largest airport in America is in his home state of Georgia, and they're already experiencing flight delays in Atlanta.
Okay, real quick, Ms. Shona, there's 2 streams, one vertical that goes to cell phones, the other stream goes to horizontal, to TVs and to laptops. So you're on the one for the laptops. That's why you don't see the chat, okay? So there's 2 different streams, but guys, hit the like button, share, and subscribe. So you have to come out and go into the vertical one that goes to the cell phone.
Atlanta, 231,000 women, infant, and children will lose their benefits in Senator Ossoff's home state of Georgia if he votes no today. Think about them when you're casting that vote. Senator Warner in Virginia, 825,000 SNAP enrollees in his home state of Virginia. 189,000 federal workers. Don't come up here and give some speech lamenting about the hardships those people are facing when you're the one voting to impose those hardships. You can stop that today by voting yes. 107,000 women, infant, and children will lose their benefits in Virginia if Senator Warner votes no. Tina Smith in Minnesota, 452,000 enrollees in the SNAP program, 33,000 federal workers, and 101,000 women, infant, and children in Minnesota will lose their benefits if Tina Smith votes no today. Gary Peters in Michigan, over 1.4 million enrollees in SNAP. No food stamp benefits this weekend to 1.4 million Michiganders. 56,000 federal workers, 189,000 women, infant, and children will go without food this weekend in Michigan if Senator Peters votes no. Senator Sheehan in New Hampshire, 76,000 enrollees in SNAP, 9,000 federal workers, and 12,000 women, infant, and children will go hungry in New Hampshire if Senator Sheehan votes no. I could go on with more and more of these. All we need is 5. That's 5 right there. If they get the courage, they don't have to impose that pain on families. But the only way this suffering is prevented is if they come to their senses and vote yes. We all know the math. We all know what's needed. But it's not just math. It's millions and millions of families across this country that will truly suffer and go without food if they vote no today. It's a straightforward vote. We've all voted yes and passed it through the House over a month ago. End the madness and pass this bill. Our whip, Tom Emmer.
We are officially 30 days into the Democrats' needless government shutdown. 30 days that millions of federal workers have gone without a paycheck. 30 days that critical telehealth services and in-home hospital care programs have been put on pause for the vulnerable Americans who need it most. 30 days that our national security has been put at risk due to staffing shortages. Not to mention the SNAP benefits that you've heard our leader go through in detail that will be cut off for more than 40 million low-income Americans if the Democrats fail to reopen the government before Saturday. It's been 30 days of pure obstruction from Democrat lawmakers who care more about appeasing the radical Mamdani and Omar Fata wing of their party than reopening the government for the people they were elected to serve. Americans are hurting. Families are turning to food banks. Major airports are issuing ground stops. But the Democrats don't care. In fact, they've orchestrated this chaos by refusing to support our nonpartisan government funding bill 14 times now. And for what? So that they can kowtow to the people like Kami. And I will just say to my great friend and colleague, Claudia Tenney, socialists are now the moderates in my grandfather's Democrat Party. These are communists and Marxists. They are kowtowing to the people like Kami Mamdani ahead of the election. People are struggling in the meantime to put food on the table, and the Democrats are too busy playing politics to do anything about it. It's disgusting, and it needs to end. I say it every day when we do this. Remember, all we need is 5 Senate Democrats to come to their senses, break ranks with Chuck Schumer, support our clean CR, and reopen the government. It's past time for Democrats in Congress to get serious and do their jobs for the people they were elected to serve, not for the communist mayoral candidate in New York City. Our conference chair.
Thank you. Kami Mamdani, that might stick. That might stick. Well, good.
Works.
Yeah, the truth hurts, right?
Works.
Works. All right. Well, this Saturday, SNAP benefits run out for 42 million Americans. 42 million Americans, the SNAP benefits will run out. Let me say it one more time and let it sink in. 42 million families, including thousands in my home state of Michigan, could lose the ability to put food on the table for their families. Why? Because Democrats choose to use their pain and their hunger as leverage. Leverage for more wasteful spending, leverage to satisfy their radical base. And what are Republicans doing? Republicans did their job and are going to continue to do our job. We voted for a clean, responsible bill to keep the government open and fully fund SNAP. So let me be very clear. Republicans voted to continue funding for SNAP and continue to have families have the ability to feed their families. Democrats voted to take food off the table and voted to discontinue SNAP benefits. It is that simple. Democrats voted to shut it down, and they voted to deny food assistance to 42 million Americans. And they voted that way more than a dozen times. Just so y'all didn't get confused, they wanted to make sure that they rubbed it in your face more than a dozen times that they wanted to stop the SNAP benefits. Not just once, not just twice, they wanted to make doggone sure you knew they voted more than a dozen times to kill the SNAP benefits, to take food off your table. Just so you're clear. And let's remember, they did it, and let's make sure that we don't forget, and let's make sure we remind them who voted to keep food on the table and who voted to take food off the table. Because at some point in time, they're going to reverse what they're talking about and do what they normally do, and that's try and blame us. But let's hold them accountable for once to the votes that they've taken. I can assure you I will. I met one of these recipients last weekend while I was volunteering at a food bank in St. Clair County. His name was Jim. Jim's wife is a teacher, and he's a retired auto worker. They rely on SNAP to help cover the cost of groceries. Jim waited in line for more than 3 hours because he knows he won't be getting his benefits. That's what he told me. But you know what he told me? I thought this was very insightful. He told me, thank you. He told me, thank you for all you're doing to keep the government open. He also told me to please talk to our senators and ask them, since they voted and they campaigned on being moderates and reaching across the aisle, to fulfill their campaign promises and stop using families like Jim as leverage and care about the people that they were elected to represent. I also spoke with a woman who recently lost her husband. She's now raising her grandkids and told me she's never needed help before, but now she's struggling to afford groceries. These are real people struggling, real people that Republicans are actually fighting for, and real people that I am fighting for. Jim is not leverage. Jim is a person with a family to feed. Open up the government and stop using Jim and his family as leverage to kowtow to your radical political base. Do what you know is right and what you have said is right, and open up the government. A farmer back home once told me, when you're not hungry, you have a lot of problems. When you're hungry, you have one. Right now, families on SNAP have a problem. And that problem should never, ever be used as political leverage. So Republicans, we're going to keep on working and we're going to keep on fighting. And you know what? We will keep showing up. And while we keep demanding that Democrats stop using suffering Americans as pawns in their political games, I implore my two senators, do what you said you were going to do. Do what you said that you are. You've reached across the aisle. You're moderates. You care about people. Well, show that in your actions and vote for a clean CR for families like Jim who you represent. Please, they are counting on you. And every no vote means that you are keeping food from their table. So please, it is time to pass the clean CR and actually put the people who you represent, Americans, first. Thank you.
You guys hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much. We'll be back for news at noon after this.
For Garbarino, Langworthy, and Tenney. It's a difficult job to hold the line in that state, but they do it very, very well, and we're grateful they're there, and that there are so many common sense New Yorkers who still believe in freedom and in the greatness of America, and they keep sending us patriots like this to do the job. So we'll take a few questions. Yes, sir, Secretary.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. During the last shutdown in 2019, it was the first Trump administration, and they made sure that in the second month of the shutdown, SNAP benefits would go out. They had them sent early. Why do you think they shouldn't do that this time?
Well, the president, this administration has done exactly what he did in the first term, and that is bend over backwards to make sure that we mitigate the harm. We explained here yesterday that any administration in a shutdown scenario has figuratively a control panel of pain dials. In the Obama administration, 2013, when they shut it down, they turned all the dials to 10. They wanted it to hurt, and so remember, famously, they put the yellow crime tape around the World War II memorial and prevented aging veterans from going and visiting these landmarks. They made it hurt. President Trump has done exactly the opposite. I mean, he's done everything he can. He's ordered all of his cabinet secretaries to mitigate the harm. So, for example, as you know, with WIC funding, they found a way to fund that with tariff revenue. We found a way to pay the troops once already in October, hopefully at the end of this month, by moving money around. But it's very difficult to do. Those are not inexhaustible funds. When it comes to SNAP, some of the Democrats have argued that you can use this contingency fund, but the truth is there's no legal mechanism to do it. Unlike with WIC funding that was attached to a 1930s era statute that was related to tariff funds because it was related to nutrition and food coming over the border, there's no such legal avenue to give SNAP funding now. It doesn't exist. The problem is the contingency and the authority to do that was voted down in the CR when the Democrats themselves did it. So the president has lamented this. He has informed USDA and everybody. Do as best you can, but the money doesn't exist to do it. The simplest way to end the pain and the simplest way to make this stop is for the Democrats to do the obvious and right thing and vote for the nonpartisan funding measure so that we can turn everything back on. Then we will get back here, and then we will debate all these other extraneous issues. But right now, the first job of the government is to keep it in operation and take care of the people who depend upon all these services we've articulated today. It's nonsense, and it has to end, and you should be asking them the tough questions, why they're willing to inflict this pain on the people for their partisan political purposes. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Speaker, some more moderate senators, Senators Murkowski, Peters, and Shaheen, have said that discussions on how to end the shutdown have picked up this week. Are you writing on those? How do you feel about them? And specifically, how do you feel about the idea of ACA subsidies working as a commitment?
ACA subsidy working. Look, I'm not surprised that the conversations are turning up in earnest. I mean, when you're talking about the handful of centrists and moderates that are there, they feel the pressure of this. You have all the major unions now coming out, as we've noted, demanding that they do the right thing and get the paychecks flowing again. You have flights being delayed and canceled. It harms people on their nutrition and their food and everything else. And so this is not a surprise to us. We welcome them doing the right thing, but again, we don't have anything to negotiate because we didn't put any partisan Republican priorities on the CR at all. I don't have anything I can pull off of it to make it more palatable for them. So our urge and our plea to them is just do the darn right thing and open the government. And then we'll figure all the rest of these things out. We were always scheduled. We were always planning to have the debate about the COVID era subsidies and all these other issues in October, November, December. The COVID era subsidies don't expire until the end of December. There are all sorts of discussions going on about that, all kinds of ideas. I could give you dozens of them that have been collected just in the House Republican Conference. There needs to be massive reform. There need to be income caps. There needs to be the elimination of fraud, waste, and abuse in that program, which we think is rife in it, and many other things. So there's informal working groups going on as we speak. There's discussions being had amongst all the members, but we've got to get the lights turned back on here and get the services provided to the people so that we can come here and do the rest of the legislative job. Yes, ma'am.
Would you be willing to fund part of the government for the full year, as some of the senators are discussing, without a CR to open them?
These rifle shot bills that you keep hearing about deviates from the goal. We have one singular purpose, and that is to reopen and fund the entire government. The Democrats do not get to shut down the government and then make the decision on who's more important than the other and which little thing they want to fund to relieve their own political pain. That we have one purpose, and that is turn this thing back on. And all those other efforts are deviations, and it's political games. They're trying to cover their own tails now because they know they have inflicted this pain. I'm going to remind you again, 14 times. I bring my chart in every day. I'll bring it back tomorrow because I want everybody to remember. Republicans have voted 14 times to fund the government, and the Democrats have voted 14 times to close it. They are imposing the pain, and now they're feeling a little pain themselves because people are starting to let them hear about it. They better do the right thing. That's all we can say. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Speaker, you mentioned today that the Senate's going to vote for the 15th time. Senate Democrats are supposedly. The Senate's actually not voting today on the CR to fund the government. Do you agree with Leader Thune's decision to let Democrats sit with this over the weekend? They're not voting today on the CR, so SNAP benefits are going to lapse. They're not taking that vote today.
Well, Leader Thune was pretty upset yesterday. We've all seen the video. Mad John on the floor, and it's appropriate. When we come in here and do these briefings, I can empathize with them because we're happy warriors. I like to come in and have a good time in press conferences and tell you good news and all of that. But this feels very much like in my state, Louisiana is a hurricane state. It's like giving a briefing during a hurricane, a Cat 5 hurricane, right before it hits shores. We put the sandbags around our homes and we board up the windows and we do everything we can to prepare, but we know the real pain is about to hit. And we feel helpless in doing anything about it. And that's the same emotion and that we feel here at the podium and when we're on the floor. And Leader Thune let them have it yesterday because they were trying to play games, and we're just fed up with it. He's a very even-tempered, calm guy. I mean, I try to maintain the same demeanor, but it's infuriating to us. I'm not going to second guess his decisions on when they schedule the votes each time, but he's probably about had it with their nonsense. And when they tell him and they thumb their nose at him and give him, and say other things that they like to drop the F-bomb now for fun, for emphasis apparently. When they tell him those things, he probably recognizes it's a futile effort. He realizes they're dug in, they don't care. They're more afraid of the Marxist, socialist, far left in the party than they are the harm that they're going to cause in the American people. That's a fact, and you need to make them try to refute that because they can't. I'm grateful again for our New York colleagues for holding their ground and standing guard as they do and for being here. Thank you all so much.
Okay, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for all the like, share, and subscriptions. We really do appreciate it. What do you guys think? Do you think the government will open before the big deadline of November the 1st, when people will lose access to their food stamps? So basically, for what I'm understanding, not only are they not going to receive food stamps for November, whatever residual, whatever balance that is on the card, they will not be able to access. Now, for many of us that perhaps work or may have money or what have you, we don't often think about the elderly unless we have them in our family. But there's so many elderly people, and I've seen it so much in the audience, a lot of comments, right? A lot of them are going to suffer. And who's really going to look out for them? They're using this as a way to play this political game. In the meanwhile, we see people are really going to struggle. Now, we saw this with COVID from a physical standpoint. When people lost their lives, you know, everybody's trying to survive. So people were dulled and they became sensitive, unsensitive to people passing away, so much to, okay, well, such and such passed away. They won't have a funeral. Not a big deal. So now we're seeing it from a financial standpoint, and we shouldn't really take this lightly because this could really go on because they're trying to really, it looks like the administration is really trying to pummel the Democrats into the ground. Now, with that, who's really going to suffer? What about the people that are disabled? I see some in the audience saying, well, there's food banks and so forth. But a lot of people don't even have $10. I see that. I see people. I'm right here near a big city where people are actually struggling who actually had money years ago. So this is not an easy task. We're going to get to some of the comments, and then we're going to come back later. Mark's in the building. Nice to see you. We'll be back for news at noon, the hot topics. I have some hot topics coming up. Did you see what happened in Jamaica? I posted a video last night that Eric had sent over to me. People are really struggling. They're praying hard, but they're down there struggling, really trying to get through the mud. Can you imagine that? The bedroom, what the lady in the video said, they had not had any sleep since the night before. Can you imagine all of that? The winds, terrifying. People are really going through it. So what can we do to help? That's the real question. I'm going to go through Mark says, nice to see some common sense. Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. Ivan says, from 2020 to 2024, Joe Biden gave all resources like welfare, healthcare, free, vouchers. Okay, you get it, Samuel. Okay, very good. All right. Mark says, need to get rid of EBT. Okay. Now, a lot of people feel that way. Number one, the big argument that I've been hearing is, oh, go tell these people get a job, right? But not everybody, again, is just sitting on their loins, right? A lot of people have serious issues. They're battling serious health problems. They're elderly, and the list goes on and on. So when we look at the big picture, a lot of people are struggling. Now, some people did point out that illegal immigrants are receiving the food stamps, and maybe that's what they're trying to get at. So I think someone said it was AI, said it was 39% of these recipients are, I can't really prove that, so we'll have to research it, but thank you for, dropping that on us. Goldie Savage says food banks are dry. Okay. Tell us where you're from, Goldie. You haven't given us so much information. All right. We have John says, this is the last ditch effort for Democrats to hold on to any power. I think the Democrats are suffering tremendously. Remember when Martin Luther King, and I'm not trying to really express a point, but I felt like when Martin Luther King says he led his people into a burning building, I wonder what he was talking about. Was he talking about a party, or was he talking about something else? Was he talking about the church? We don't know exactly, right? Make Breed G says Republicans are liars. We have a lot of Republicans here today. They're expressing themselves. We see a lot of people going back and forth, but I do not see a lot of derogatory language. So that's good. We're getting along, even though we're expressing ourselves. Goldie Savage has been pointing out the entire show how Donald Trump is giving so much money to Argentina, yet our people will go hungry. And let me tell you something. You could be the best person in the world, but when you're hungry, you might be mean, right? Right? Perhaps your mate is that way, your mother, your family members, right? Your close friends. Once they get hungry, they can't function. And that's why it's so important, right? In school, most schools want to make sure the children are not hungry when they start class in the morning, right? Because when you're hungry, you can't focus, right? And so, or when you're cold, there's a lot of these just basic needs that we're in the wealthiest country probably in the world, and now we're having people to struggle, just like they're homeless, can't even get a decent meal, right? Also, we have the holidays coming up. Did you think about that? What kind of Thanksgiving will people have when we're going into the month with no access to food? You can't even access what you already had, what they already had on their card. To me, that's just hitting below the belt. Like, what's really going on? Who's leading all of this, right? Who do you blame? Tell us in the audience. A lot of people are saying it's the Republicans. The others say it's the Democrats, right? But how do you think we could actually move forward when one party is just trying to pummel the other one? They don't even care about the people. We learned about that during COVID. A lot of people were left out. In fact, when it comes to Cuomo, a lot of people complain about what happened with the elderly people that passed away in these homes. But now Cuomo is back running again, right? And he says, well, I wasn't charged for it, whatever his argument is. But we tend to forget. We're swiping so much on our phones, right? These stories, we don't tend to hold on to them. We just, somebody do something crazy. In my mind, let me tell you guys a quick story real quick, and I'll let you go. I covered Sean Diddy Combs' trial every day. I was in the main courtroom. I heard, I saw it all, right? For the most part, 95%, I would say. And when I first started covering the trial, if you said anything positive, even about his family members, people would read you your rights. They would really let you have it, right? By the end of the trial, people had started to change their opinion for whatever reason, right? But I tell you, if they had allowed Diddy to walk out of that courtroom on the final day when the verdict was read, these people who were battering, talking bad about him, they would have been treating him like he's a demigod. That's how much this world is so twisted. People just wanted to get a picture with him, stand beside him. Same people who they totally forget about the video of Cassie being kicked. People are so wishy-washy, and it's all because we're swiping, and it's all by design. That's why they want us to cut back on TikTok and all this. But there's a whole different story to that. I won't get into that as well, but it just goes to show all of this is happening and no one really cares about the people. And that's the sad part about this existence and about this life. Even the people that go to church and they promote religion, they promote the Bible, these people would turn around and says, forget you, you're not my neighbor, you were not born in this country. Now, I'm not saying allow people to just come into the country crazily or whatever, but I'm saying when it comes to love that the Bible is supposed to promote, a lot of people just don't follow it. In fact, they hate their neighbor, but they call themselves whatever they want to be, a Christian or what have you. There's something majorly wrong in this world, and I'm not sure if we're ever going to be able to resolve it. It's something to think about. Marky Mark says those 42 million aren't starving. Okay, so what do you think, Mark, they're going to do after, let's say we go into this next week and it goes all the way till Friday? What do you think? They're going to go to the food banks? Tell us what you think. And that says very, very sad. Yes, indeed. Another thing is, and which I hope, right? This is what I'm hoping. In my life, my grandmother my mother, they gave so much to the church. They've given so much money. It's probably mind-boggling. Maybe this is the time, if the government shut down, that the church will be able to take the lead and feed the poor, right? I think many of the churches follow Christ. And in the Gospels, it talks about who of you, your neighbor comes to you hungry, will you give them a stone, right? You would feed your neighbor. So hopefully this is a time for the church to take the lead, and the pastors, and also in addition to the food banks, because this is a real problem. A lot of us are saying, oh, it depends on what media you listen to. If you listen to pro this administration, a lot of people are going to come in and say, oh, there's no starving. These people are lazy bums. I see it every day from where I sit, right? Right. And then if you go to these different legacy media, that's what they say. Oh, these people they're not going to starve. They've been selling their food stamps. They're using their food stamps to buy crack. That's what they say, right? But at the end of the day, people are starving. People are struggling, trying to survive, right? And we've allowed ourselves to not even care about our fellow man in any way, right? And if it's this bad now, what do you think is going to happen in years to come? As you look back on your life, if you look into the future, it's hard to connect dots because you don't even know what tomorrow is going to bring. But you could easily connect the dots when you look back on your life and says, yeah, this is the reason why I did this. This is why I had this happen. I shouldn't have done this, right? So we really need to figure out a better way, because over the years, we're falling apart. A lot of people want to blame rap music. I see that a lot in the comments. They say, oh, everything you see now is because of rap. Or Ronald Reagan when he pushed the drugs. Now, you can't say that that's not a subject you could really get into. That's a bit of a conspiracy. People feel that way. But depending on who you ask and what day, they'll give you a different reason as to why we're just falling apart, missing the mark when it comes to helping people. Marky Mark says, keep it shut down. All right. JDP says, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much. Okay, Jesus says, I don't feel sorry for lazy people. Okay. AI MedSpot says the 21st century church is following. I would like for you guys to explain to me, how is a person that's in their 80s, 90s, even their 70s, perhaps they are barely getting around, they have diabetes or what have you, how are you going to define them as lazy? I just want you guys to, build on that. I just want to understand. Are you saying everybody's lazy, or are you saying some are lazy? That's what I would like to know. The Metal Whisperer says, let's see if I can find it. Shut off the money to the rich. They need to know how it feels. Okay, it'll never happen. The rich control everything. John Stevenson says evangelists are not getting off any church money. John, I hate to think that that's true, but I think we're going to find out. We're going to see if the church helps out, especially people in their congregation that are going to struggle. People are definitely going to struggle. All right. Jesus says, we love you, Trump. Keep going, MAGA. Okay. Marky Mark says 90%, 96% of people are freeloading. Okay, Eric says, great thought, Mel. Thank you very much, Eric. Gold Diggers in the building. Thank you. I see you've been holding it together for us, just as JDP has been doing it right from the beginning today. I appreciate that. All right. Samuel says, Trump says he wants to send military into the cities. Okay. Wow. It's already happening to a certain degree. And definitely as the voting comes down the line, you're going to see a lot of military in these cities too. I already see the plan to keep them honest at the polls. They want to have the military looking over your shoulder. That's probably a hard stretch, but that's what they're trying to get at. Marky Mark says they sell their food stamps to buy Gucci handbags, and that's what people think, and that's why we're here. And we're not going to see much of a change when it comes to the shutdown. I think, in fact, one of Donald Trump's key players said that he wants to see the government employees pretty much shaking in their boots, and that's why a lot of them have lost their jobs. So can you imagine what they want the people who are on services to feel? Perhaps they're trying to do it as a wake-up call to shake off people who shouldn't be on the program, but it's a mean approach, in my opinion, to a certain extent. Now we're attaching this to the shutdown, but if you look at Project 2025, shutting down or cutting back the food stamps, the whole program is already written into that whole book. If you get a chance to read it, I think it's important to do so, because not only do they want to ultimately shut down food stamps, they want to shut down Section 8. In fact, a lot of people are lifelong Section 8, right? Well, they're going to limit it to 2 years. There's so many changes coming, and I'm just concerned that so many people have not been paying attention that all of a sudden they walked themselves into a tough spot. And I don't know how many people are going to give a bailout to you when they're struggling too. So we're going to see some things happen, mark my word. And if they keep this shutdown going, believe you me, it's going to get worse. Indeed. Okay. John Stevenson says Ray Rice got treated worse than Diddy. Okay. All right. Thank you for your comment. Nathan Lemon says bigots. Okay, great. Thank you, guys. We're going to be back at noon for the hot topics news at lunch, and you're going to see some terrible things that are happening. We're also going to look into, have you guys heard about all the things that are happening in the skies? People are concerned about the UFOs, and also there's been a sighting under the water. We're going to unpack all of that. I haven't been covering it in detail, but I do want to keep you guys in the know about your surroundings, because it's quite concerning, because we just don't know what's happening. Okay. But thank you guys so much. Let's see. We're going to take a few more comments before we go. Let's see here. Let's see. Keep it shut down. Okay. John Stevenson says, chase money. You do realize if Americans stop having kids, then American is not American anymore. Thank you for your comment. Marky Mark says, we the people are sick of paying for all this bullshit. Okay. A lot of people feel that way. That's a strong argument. I understand what you mean when you see people wasting what's meant to be a true help, right? That's a concern too. But what we're seeing now on a large blanket scale is quite different, I must say. All right. Let's see. AI says Project 2025 or 50 million illegals. Which do you prefer? Now, that 50 million illegals, I will say the last administration went overboard. And I think that's one of the reasons why Kamala wasn't able to win, is because, in fact, remember when they gave the debate, she basically co-signed, Joe Biden. She did not draw a line in the sand saying, hey, we fell off here, I'm going to do this better. Because a lot of people, listen, let me tell you guys something, right? From where I sit, I'm not so big on blue, red, yellow, green. I try to land somewhere with common sense and right and wrong, right? That's important to me. But when you go back to that debate that she had, she did not really break down why we had all of these illegal immigrants. Like here, where I am in New York, they were bringing in, first off, they sent illegal immigrants from Texas and they landed in New York City. I'm upstate. A lot of these people ended up in our small towns upstate, and they were all in the hotels. A friend of mine, he worked as a security guard, and he said at nighttime it was a madhouse, but there were so many people. And then when you go to Panera Bread, people were trying to, these individuals who were staying in these hotels, they would come over and try to break into your car. So then those that were not doing that were standing out on the corner asking for money. It was just craziness. Immediately when Donald Trump came in with ICE, we don't see any of this anymore. So it's quite concerning what was happening. There should have been a better way, but I don't know the exact number Joe Biden let in under his administration, but it's a large number, let's say the least, millions of people with very little means, right? So we have some major problems, but it looks like we have the biggest problem that we've seen in quite some time if the government stays shut down next week when people are hungry and they can't eat. That's just simple thing. I know a lot of you are pushing back on me because I feel like that's a shame. I understand your position, right? But I guarantee you it's going to feel different if you're ever in a position in your life when your mom, your father, someone call you, say, I'm hungry, and so forth, and they're struggling. So at any rate, I'm going to cover a few more comments, and then I'll go off. I'll be back at noon to go over the news. Annette, thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who hit the like button, share, and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. Annette says, there you go, right and wrong. This is what should be important. Exactly, Annette. It's so important, right? We're so busy. Everybody wants to be identified. It's that gang mentality, right? You want to be involved, or you want to belong to a group. So I'm blue and I'm red, and I guarantee you, if you had to sit in the front seat and answer a lot of questions to really hear your true thought process, what's important, your why, I guarantee you a blue person is going to have some red beliefs, and the red person is going to have some blue beliefs. But because you identify as a mushroom, you identify as a tree, right? You cannot get out of your own way. And you just want to hold on to these ideologies when they don't even make sense, right? I guarantee you. I think it's important for us to have a meeting of the minds. And then also, right, even though the independents are the minority, at least you can go to bed at night and rest well knowing that you can say, listen, I agree that Russia and China, especially Russia, are testing their nukes. And then Donald Trump comes out today and he says, okay, we're going to test our nukes too, right? To me, I think that's smart, right? You have to show some strength, right? Okay, but then you could also look and say, listen, Donald Trump is trying to erase Black history. That's a problem, especially if you're a person of color. He's trying to take away your whole history as though your identity is already questionable because we don't know the true history. Remember, the winners are the writers of history. That's why you have the Greek scriptures. When you look at the Greek scriptures in the Bible, the writers were the winners. The losers died. They couldn't write their real story, right? Exactly. So you won't know. And if you go back in our history here, one of my clients is Rockefeller, his family members, his descendants, right? But Rockefeller did a lot of things. He was so smart to rewrite history to affect the entire education system. So when certain individuals look back, they couldn't even identify who they are. So you have a people that are lost and they're looking to history to try to tell them, where did I come from? A lot of us don't have a clue. And I know it's tough to hear these things, but I'm just telling you what I know. So at any rate, I'm not going to get too deeply into that, but I'm just trying to say we have to get to a point where, as a human, right? And I keep saying on this channel, when China come to turn you into Chinese food, right? You're not going to ask your neighbor, are you a Republican or a Democrat? You're going to try to band together to try to solve that problem, right? And now they have this whole philosophy and this theory about what is it? This comet, they think it's a spaceship, all of these theories, and people are following it. You go to YouTube, that's all you see about this UFO that they don't know or whatever, right? Now, when that comes and it's so magnificent and huge, now the entire earth, everybody has to band together. So now you forget about, oh, you're not concerned if you're in the United States or Russia. You have to try to deal with this outside force that's bigger than life. You see how that works? The more you back out, you start to realize that our existence is all mapped out by these ideas that try to put you in a box that don't even really make sense at the end of the day. I'm just saying, if you use your thoughts process, right? So at any rate, that's it for my preaching for today. I didn't mean to get off into this tangent, but sometimes when I get into the comments, I vibe with you guys. Hey, I appreciate you guys, right? Marky Mark, I'm with you. I do not feel it's a UFO. Exactly, right? I don't feel it is, but a lot of people do. And here's the other part, Mark. It pays good money on YouTube and in the media to push the idea that, oh, the UFOs are coming and so forth. But I use that as an example to make my point that we're divided so much for no reason, folks. And that's what we really need to do, is try to figure out a way to get along more than to just figure out ways to be more divided. And that's what's happening right now. And wait till next week when when people are really hungry, oh, they're really going to hate the other party then. So all these things are so out of pocket. But anyway, I'll see you guys back at noon for our hot topics, folks. Yes, indeed. We'll be back to we're going to cover all of these points and try to figure out what's really happening. Yes. And also NASA and all of the intellectuals are saying it's a comet. Again, it's unknown. And I broke down yesterday the gods of the gaps and why people, when they don't know things, they either put it in a God slot or they put it into some conspiracy slot because they lack the understanding. But I'm not going to get into that today. I'll see you guys at noon. Thank you very much. Come back and we're going to go through the news. And if whatever ideas you have, bring them with you. If you like to come on the show and talk to me about it. I was on a show last night at 8 o'clock with the younger crowd, the younger generation, really big show. I'm going to try to figure out how to stream it on the channel. But next time I go on their show, I'm going to stream it on this channel. So the younger people, I think they would have benefited to hear the young generation talk about snitching, talk about some of the matters that are going on that usually the older crowd don't necessarily want to hear about, talking about the rappers and what's really happening. They see things quite differently than what we do. So thank you very much. And thank you guys who subscribed as well. We'll see you soon. Let me put the song
on. Different voices, but the same song. Loving a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the flame remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. Harmony, painting the night. United we stand.